I'm just sending our meeting to YouTube, but I'm not going to look there because I don't think anyone's watching it anyway. And I'm unprepared. But I see you. Good morning.
That's great. It's nice to see you.
Mm.
So, The Way of the Bodhisattva, Chapter 2.
Yes.
So, I did not make an extensive presentation, but I did scribble a few notes.
When are you going to give those notes? I wonder.
How about now?
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
And this is really, I guess, a disclaimer and then to try to set some context. And it's the same disclaimer as last time, really, and that certainly and I think together with you, we're not posing as Buddhist scholars. We're really just exploring. So profound and deep understanding here is probably a function of many, many passes through the book. But the other piece of context here is in the first 3 chapters, according to the introduction. What Shantideva is doing is he's trying to help us. He's trying to help himself also, because it's a note. This book is notes to himself. He's trying to cultivate a desire for an attitude of bodhicitta or enlightenment is how the text is calling it. And I see this chapter as him really trying to sort of gather up his intention. And he's starting by making offerings, and he's very, as we'll see, the first 27 verses are very much he's offering all kinds of gifts and pleasant things, and he's doing this in part to make good things happen. Basically, what goes around comes around, and he's trying to send around these offerings that we'll be into in just a moment here. But then, after verse 27, things totally change, and you get the title of the chapter as Confession. And he's basically saying, I've been terrible. I've been evil. And he's saying he knows he's going to die, that, his body, his mind, just everything ever associated with him he's going to have to give it all up. And at the same time, he's recognizing that life is precious, and he's confessing to having been wasting it, and he's experiencing some real remorse.
At verse 27, is it?
That's when we take a turn. Yeah, the flavor of the chapter just totally changes there.
Okay.
And so from there, he talks about refuge. And so he's asking for help. So you've got offerings, confession, refuge, or asking for help is what's going on in this chapter. And I think it'll be obvious as we read, but wanted to set that context.
Yeah. And we're the overlay. We're like the modern version of what Shantideva is doing. So we'll be like translating for the what century are we in? What century did you call this?
This is the 21st.
Okay, you call this 21st century. Okay, so we're in the 21st century. So we're going to be speaking in 21st century terms.
Yeah.
So we're meeting with the intention, kind of, and anybody who listens, you're welcome to come along for the ride, is that we're here, meaning in life, to be as bodhicittas, or in service to the truth, or in service to God, or in service to something higher than a separate idea or a sense of a separate me. And probably loads of things that we do are towards that goal. And this is one of those things. So when we join together with someone in the same, with the same intention, it intensifies the prayer, so to say. So if anybody finds this video, you're totally here with us in that intention as well. And yeah, not just intention, but I feel like, everything in life is carrying us. Like kind of like the means and the goal are the same, really.
Yeah, well said. The thing that came home as you were speaking was that, to the extent that you're identified as a body mind, it's going away. It's definitely going away.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So can I start to read?
Please.
Chapter 2, Confession. To the Buddhas, those thus gone, and to the sacred Dharma, spotless and supremely rare, and to the Buddha's offspring, oceans of good qualities, that I might gain this precious attitude, I make a perfect offering. I offer every fruit and flower, every kind of healing draught, and all the precious gems the world contains, with all pure waters of refreshment. Every mountain wrought of precious jewels, all sweet and lonely forest groves, the trees of paradise adorned with blossom, trees with branches bowed with perfect fruit, the perfumed fragrance of divine and other realms, all incense, wishing trees and trees of gems, all crops that grow without the tiller's care, and every sumptuous object worthy to be offered. So, in the 21st century, what will we be offering? Even that, like every kind of healing draft, is all the different kinds of the tendency to want to be healed, that there's something wrong with us and that we need to change it, because that's not really trusting that. It's not really trusting God or life, and it doesn't mean that it won't change, and it doesn't mean that we have to completely ignore it either, but it just means that we're not engaging in trying to change it and control it and healing, but rather recognizing what's here that's healed already. And then all of those things that he's offering in such a poetic way, like fruits and flowers and jewels and perfect fruit and wishing trees. So for us, that could be similar things. Like many people that are interested in spirituality these days are into, gemstones, like crystals and all this thing. So offer them. And it doesn't mean as well that you can't continue to use them the way you want, but you're kind of offering them to God in a way. So if you're using them, you're saying that God is using them and offering everything, really just that we're not grasping onto anything and all the luxuries that we might seem to have, like warm house, TV, Netflix. I don't know. And I'm not even that in touch with technology, so you might be better than me in offering up a few of these kind of technological comforts and modern comforts. But basically anything that comes to your mind that you feel like we kind of grasp and hold on to and need, we're basically just giving everything that we see in our lives to God.
And he's going beyond everything he sees in his life. He's saying, and all the precious gems the world contains. So not a diamond ring or not a ruby or an emerald, but every precious gem the world contains. He's going big.
That's good. So that's also like the potential of anything that might come to you, and maybe like the desire for gaining future things. You're giving that up right now, because where are all those future things going to come from? They're going to come from the world somewhere. So we're giving all that up as well. Lakes and meres adorned with lotuses, delightful with the sweet voiced cries of water birds, and everything unclaimed and free, extending to the margins of the boundless sky. I hold them all before my mind, and to the mighty sage, the greatest of our kind, and to his heirs, I make a perfect offering, Sublime recipients, compassionate lords, oh, think of me with love, accept these gifts of mine. For destitute of merit, I am very poor. I have no other wealth, and so, protectors, you whose wise intentions are for others' good, in your great power, receive them for my sake. Enlightened ones, and all your Bodhisattva heirs, I offer you my body throughout all my lives. Supreme courageous ones, accept me totally, for with devotion I will be your slave. So again, I feel like he's just offering his life and any potential future lives. That he's just saying he's here for God, he's here for truth, and that's it. And he's just saying that over and over again, and he's offering it to the sages. They're the ones who already live for this and teach it, and those that are in service to them, offering it to them as well. So just basically, because really they're the same, so God and the sage and the sage's disciples, so to say, they're all one. And really the one offering is also one, but it's just an expression of surrender. For if you will accept me, I will be undaunted by samsara and will act for being's sake. I'll leave behind the evils of my past and ever after turn my face from them. A bathing chamber, excellently fragrant, with even floors of crystal, radiant and clear, and graceful pillars shimmering with gems, all hung about with gleaming canopies of pearls. There, the blissful Buddhas and their heirs, I'll bathe with many a precious vase, abrim with water vagrant and delightful, all to frequent strains of melody and song. With cloths of unexampled quality, with spotless perfumed towels, I will dry them, and offer splendid scented clothes, well dyed of surpassing excellence. With different garments, light and supple, and 100 beautiful adornments, I will grace sublime Samantavadra, Manjugasha, Lokeshvara, and their kin. And with a sumptuous fragrance, which pervades 1,000 million worlds, I will anoint the bodies of the mighty sages, gleaming bright like burnished gold and refined, refined and cleansed. It's very poetic. He's creating nice images. Everything is like perfectly. Well, of course, in reality, he's just trying to, give an image for what is completely perfect in a way. He's trying to make it all beautiful and clean. Well, in reality, it might not look like that, but it will feel like that. And actually, it would feel better than that. So whatever is the highest imagination of a kind of a perfect world, you can imagine that for yourself, a 21st century version. Although this version is pretty timeless. Although it's still just an imagination. But I think many people can relate to that kind of thing. It gives it a certain kind of a feeling. I place before the mighty sages perfect objects of my worship. Glorious flowers like lotus and mandarava, the utpala and other fragrant blossoms, worked and twined in lovely scented garlands. I will offer swelling clouds of frankincense, whose ambient perfume ravishes the mind, and various foods and every kind of drink, all delicacies worthy of the gods. My God, he's so exceptionally poetic. Swelling clouds of frankincense and perfume that ravishes the mind. And frankincense is very known for, meditative purposes. So ravishes the mind is very good use of words there. I think it's like it takes over the mind, like the sweet perfume that he's offering to like the sage or the god. It's like it's basically clearing his mind. Ravishes the mind, but ravishes is a good word. I will offer precious lamps arranged in rows on lotuses of gold, a carpet of sweet flowers scattering upon the level incense sprinkled ground. To those whose very nature is compassion, I will give vast palaces, resounding with fair praise, all decked with precious pearls and beauteous pendant gems, gleaming jewels that deck the amplitude of space. Fair and precious parasols, adorned with golden shafts, all bordered around with hems of precious jewels, upright, well proportioned, pleasing to the eye. Again, all this I give to all the Buddhas. I love that. It's like he's showing through his words like how much he values that nature of compassion. Like he's totally valuing it. And at least now, in the time that we live in, there's many of us that recognize it, but then we don't really value it. We easily get carried away back into the world and not really even caring about this kind of true compassion that we see in our hearts. So I think to value it deeply is something that's very important. Of course, you can't live from there if you don't value it. Like we probably have many, many different qualities, and we're going to use, I suppose, whatever qualities we think are good. Like, so even on a human basis, we might have some skills. Like maybe if you're really good at drawing, you're going to spend your time like drawing or painting or something. Or if you're good at whatever you value and you enjoy, you're going to spend your time doing that. So he's looked inside and he's found something that's like compassion. And maybe he's only found it like a small bit or something because he's looking towards the sages who it's their natural state kind of like, and he values it so much that he's expressing like that in such a poetic way. It's like,
It feels like he's trying to open up a channel too, just giving and giving and giving and just whatever he
yeah,
can imagine that's beautiful and desirable in any way, he wants to give it away.
yeah,
And he's offering it to the Buddhas who perhaps will give it away themselves. They don't necessarily need it if they're already perfect. So it's just really the practice of giving.
yeah. And I don't know, it just came into my mind. To give absolutely everything is also to give anything that we think is ours. Like if we think that we did something, like maybe even like that, like you did a really great painting today. But it's like you're giving it away, like recognize you're giving it to God, saying like I didn't do this, like it's yours. Give the painting and the one who painted it. Or you did you got a promotion in your job or something, so you give that by giving the promotion, giving the money, you're just giving everything that is potentially yours. Like whatever it is, so we may or may not have jewels, but whatever we have, they're jewels to us. Like whatever we think is ours and whatever we grasp at, so it could be much more subtle things that we want to keep for ourselves. Oh, I want to keep this. I don't know, whatever it is. I can't even think of an example, but you want to keep it. So it's not necessarily a physical thing. So that's the jewel for us. So this is what we would give, in the pursuit of being a bodhicitta. Like this is what he's doing. He's given absolutely everything, 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 everything. So this is what we can also choose to do, is to give everything, everything, everything. And every time we notice something that we're seemingly not giving, like we're holding on to it. And sometimes it's not a good thing. Sometimes it could be something that's we're holding on to it. Like it could be like a certain situation we always get angry in. You know, like when your mother comes to you and tells you to do something, or your wife, or or your child, they come and behave in a certain way, and always it triggers some kind of anger or something. So in a way, we're kind of holding on to that as well if it's coming over and over again. So to notice those things that we're holding on to so much and to offer them up to God, to give them just means to not hold them. Anything that we think is ours.
So you and I have talked a lot about suffering, and the Buddhist attitude is grasping is the cause. So what Shantideva is doing here is the opposite of grasping. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. May rains of flowers and every precious gem fall down in an unceasing stream upon the jewels of sacred Dharma, images and all supports for offering. Just as Man, Jughosha, and the like made offering to all the conquerors, I do likewise to all the Buddhas, our protectors, and to all their Bodhisattva children. To these vast oceans of good qualities, I offer praise, a sea of airs and harmonies. May clouds of tuneful eulogy ascend unceasingly before them. To Buddhas of the past, the present, and all future time, and to the Dharma and sublime assembly, with bodies many as the grains of dust upon the earth, I will prostrate and bow. To shrines and all supports of bodhicitta I bow down. To abbots who transmit the vows, to every learned master, and to all sublime practitioners of Dharma, until the essence of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the Buddhas. Also, I take refuge in the Dharma and in all the host of bodhisattvas. To perfect Buddhas and to bodhisattvas, in all directions where they may reside, to them who are the sovereigns of great mercy, I press my palms together, praying thus. In this and all my other lives, while turning in the round without beginning, blindly I have brought forth evil and incited others to commit the same. Deceived and overmastered by my ignorance, I have taken pleasure in such sin, and seeking now the blame of it, O great protectors, I confess it earnestly. Whatever I have done against the triple gem, against my parents, teachers, and the rest, through force of my defilements in my body, speech, and mind, all the evil I, a sinner, have committed, all the wicked deeds that cling to me, the frightful things that I contrived, I openly declare to you, the teachers of the world. It may be that my death will come to me before my evil has been cleansed. How then can I be freed from it? I pray you, quickly grant me your protection. We cannot trust the wanton lord of death. The task complete or still to do, he will not wait. In health or sickness, therefore, none of us can trust our fleeting momentary lives. And we must pass away, forsaking all. But I, devoid of understanding, have, for sake of friend and foe alike, provoked and brought about so many wrongs. But all my foes will cease to be, and all my friends will cease to be, and I will also cease to be, and likewise everything will cease to be. All that I possess and use is like the fleeting vision of a dream. It fades into the realms of memory, and fading will be seen no more. Would you like to read for a minute? I need to have a little cough.
I wish to you soothing, balming, warm liquids, cleansing your throat of all obstructions, and a soothing, calming sense of ease. I just want to comment too, and I'm happy to go on reading, but I had read this chapter a couple days ago and had scribbled some notes, and I was thinking about my own family and how I don't know that I have ever heard anything about my grandfather on my father's side, about his family, certainly not his grandfather. So that certainly for my siblings, our knowledge of previous generations really doesn't go back all that far. Like if your family's lived in Dublin for generation after generation, maybe your great 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 grandfather is someone whose name you can remember. But for myself, I think my great grandchildren may hear my name, assuming I have great grandchildren. They may know of my name, but you know the next generation, I'm going to be completely gone, not remembered or known in any way.
It's true. I love that sometimes I get the sense like in about, sometimes I say like in 100 years or in 200 years, all of us will be gone. Everything on the earth, everything we know, like it'll all be gone. And I don't know, I just like that kind of sense just comes sometimes. And I don't know, I kind of feel like it's a joyful thing though.
Ah,
Like
say
I
say
feel it
more
as
about
joy.
why you think it's joyful.
I don't know, it's just I get the sense of joy when that comes. I don't know why. But
I
I
think
think
it's
I don't know, I
Go
think
ahead.
the idea kind of in a way forces us to be in this moment. It's like it's not, sometimes we think we're doing something for the future. Like I'm doing this so that this is gonna happen. Like, and many of us don't think that far in advance, but like just even in relation to career and everything, like we're often working so that we can maybe buy a house and then so that we can retire and then so that we can do this and do this. Like we're doing lots of things for the future. And it's not that we shouldn't do those things because of course they come around in time, but they don't bring anything lasting,
Mhm.
And I don't know, and in a way as well, the joy is like that. This is our chance, this is our chance now to fully live, like us or our descendants, or like you say, like our great grandchildren won't remember us. They won't know anything about us. They might not even know our name at all. Um, so even if we like, sometimes you can seem to do something good for your children, like you can do something good in the world and then pass it on to your children, and then maybe they'll pass it on, whatever it is. But this is just our opportunity. And the best good that you can do, even for your generations that aren't going to know you, is really to find everlasting peace,
Mm.
really, which is the same really as being a bodhicitta, because a bodhicitta means that you're living for the supreme God, and you're not, there's nothing in you that owns anything because you've offered everything to him, and everything you do, every breath you take, everything is for him. So that's supreme peace. So I feel like that's the best thing that you can do for your children and your grandchildren and your great grandchildren and all down. And it probably hasn't been done for us. Maybe along the line somewhere, maybe there is one, but more than likely, probably not. But we can give that, and maybe they won't know anything about us, but they'll feel it. They won't have the conditioning that we kind of pass down through our generations. Like I can even see it in myself with my son, like certain conditioning that's still present here that I hasn't really been kind of transcended or something. I don't know. Like I still kind of get caught up in it a bit. So I can see then that behavior comes from there. And like I can see that I'm passing it on to my son. And even if I get over, then maybe it's too late. He still has to get over it as well. But at least maybe it won't be so um I don't know, maybe I don't know. Really don't know. Maybe it won't be so deep. Anyway, it's just our opportunity. Like we can't really be concerned with so much with the people who come after us and after us and after us. We just do the best we can, I think.
Well, here, Shantideva is starting to come to grips with the facts of what you're saying. So
Mm.
from verse 36, all that I possess and use
Can I just say
is,
one more thing
yeah,
before you
please.
start?
Sure,
Like
sure.
just that same thing that was in those verses that we read, like about like the evil that I've done and the bad that I've done and all.
Yeah,
Like usually that's like in our kind of terms, it's like when you get upset or something with someone and you have arguments, isn't it? And you're acting from those kind of conditionings that you haven't yet like transcended. They're not really the
yeah,
right words, but so you're acting from there and you hurt people and then like you feel hurt, so then you want to hurt them and all this. Like they're usually the things that happen and whatever the different stories are, doesn't really matter, but they're all the things. So in a way, we have to just kind of recognize that that happened and everybody that's probably walked the earth or most people will have that past, but it's just like, okay, he's confessing. So you can just say, okay, like, yeah, I admit to it. But like, it's still like he doesn't want to continue in that way
right.
anymore. And, because we're doing 21st century version and we're doing like the overlay. So I'm saying it in my way. So I'm also guilty of those things. And still from time to time, I can still be guilty of those things. And yeah, it's just, I feel like every time that we notice and are conscious enough to kind of just give it up. So it's still happening here, and maybe it will happen until my last breath, that I'll continue to be given things that I'm kind of like grasping. So I can see like certain things that like there's a kind of grasp. It doesn't matter what you think. Like it doesn't matter if you think you're grasping or not, because you could be thinking, no, I don't grasp anything. But like actually in your behavior, if you're really honest with yourself, you see that you do. So like it could be easy for me in a certain moment to be like, no, I don't see anything. But like in reality, there are some things there. So I'm just offering them to the Supreme
Beautiful.
Lord.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. So it probably bears repeating that he's saying, all that I possess and use is like the fleeting vision of a dream. It fades into the realms of memory and fading will be seen no more. And even in the brief course of this present life, so many friends and foes have passed away, because of whom the evils I have done still lie unbearable before me. The thought came never to my mind that I too am a brief and passing thing. And so, through hatred, lust, and ignorance, I have committed many sins. Never halting night or day, my life drains constantly away, and from no other source does increase come. How can there not be death for such as me? There I'll be, prostrate on my bed, and all around my family and friends, but I alone shall be the one to feel the cutting of the thread of life. And when the heralds of the deadly king have gripped me, what help to me will be my friends and kin? For then life's virtue is my one defense, and this, alas, is what I shrugged away. O protectors, so little heeding, hardly guessed at horror such as this, and all for this brief, transient existence I have done so many evil things. The day they take him to the scaffold where they will tear off his limbs, a man is changed, transfigured by his fear. His mouth is dry, his eyes start from his brow. No need to say how stricken I shall be when overcome and sick with dreadful fear. I'm seized by forms so horrible to see, the frightful servants of the Lord of Death. Who can give me safe protection from this horror, from this frightful dread? And then I'll search the four directions, seeking help with panic-stricken eyes. But in those four directions, no protection shall I find, and I shall sink into despairing woe. No refuge will there be for me. At such a time, What shall I do? Thus, from this day forward, I take refuge in the Buddhas, guardians of beings who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. And in the Dharma they have realized in their hearts, which drives away the terrors of samsara, and in all the host of bodhisattvas, likewise, I will perfectly take refuge. Gripped by dread, beside myself with anguish, to Samantabhadra I will give myself. My body I myself will give to Manjughosha, gentle and melodious. To him whose deeds of mercy never fail, to my Lord Avalokita, I cry out with depths of misery. Protect me now, an evildoer. Now to the noble one, Akashagarbha, and to Kashistagarbha, from my heart I call. To all protectors, great, compassionate, I cry to them in search of refuge. To Vajrapani I shall fly, for at the sight of him all vengeful things like Yama's host escape in terror to the four directions. Formerly your words I have transgressed, but having seen these terrors all around, I come to you for refuge, saying, swiftly drive away my fear. For if, alarmed by common ailments, I must implement the doctor's words, what need to speak of when I'm constantly brought low by ills like lust and faults 100-fold? And if by one of these alone the dwellers in the world are all thrown down, and if no other remedy exists, no other healing elsewhere to be found, then words of the all-knowing doctor, which uproot our every ill, the thought to turn on him deaf ears is abject and contemptible stupidity. Along a small and ordinary cliff, if I must pick my way with special care, what need to speak of that long, lasting chasm plunging to the depths of 1,000 leagues? Today, at least, I shall not die. So rash to lull myself with words like these. My dissolution and my hour of death will come to me. Of this there is no doubt. So again, he's just, it's so nice to see her smile. But here he is saying, I'm definitely going to have to give it up. He's reminding us and himself that, you know, everything he can conceive of, including his body and his mind and his ideas and his personality, is he's going to have to let it go.
And I wonder, how do you feel about this? Do you
Um,
feel like you can really, or do you feel like you have to give everything up, or you've given everything up, or what do you feel?
oh, I feel myself clinging to things all the time, and I notice myself calculating and strategizing, and
Mm,
if I take a broader view, it's about, well, I'm ultimately doing all this for others, but
yeah,
that's really, in a way, that's the conditioning talking.
yeah. And I think most people are like this, like we notice. So like everything is like a spectrum, so maybe some people notice it more or it happens more and others than it doesn't. But it really doesn't matter. Like I think what's most important is this. So this what we're reading now, he's affirming in himself just what's important. And like what, like you said, like what he has to do. Like I really have to. I have to give everything up. And he's noticing like that's the only way for um I don't know, sanity, peace. I don't know. So it's just like that, like when we come back to that again and again and again, and any time that we feel any sense of an inkling for that in our hearts, because um that's the energy that will enable us to do it in the moment, you know, because we're human and we're just in such a habit of grasping. Maybe we've been grasping onto things for thousands and thousands of years. And even one lifetime, it feels like it feels long and it feels like enough, and we know. But like I think everybody knows, like regardless of if you're into spirituality or if you're not into spirituality, just like really basically, we really know that when we grasp onto things and hold onto things and try to keep them the way they are and of this, that we suffer. And nobody wants to suffer, you know. But then, of course, there's always that question then that would come up is like, yeah, I see that, but like, how can I just let go? Because of course, if I could, then I would. Like, if it was as easy as just like holding on to a pole and noticing that you're holding on to the pole and then just letting go, and I'd be like, oh, okay. But somehow we're a little bit more complex than that. But that's what this text is. So even though it is a bit, well, it's not necessarily old written. It's just very, very poetically written. Um, so some people could hear it and not be able to relate to it. But I think if you hear it with not just kind of with an open mind and try to understand it from your perspective and how those types of things fit into your world. Because, we all have different kinds of stories, like depending on where we live in the world and depending on probably loads of different things. But I think it's not like completely mysterious. Like I think we can understand what he's talking about, and relate it to our own lives. And if we just come back to that, in a way, it's kind of just, it can be just like a prayer, like let's say you have a week of suffering. Like you maybe sometimes we're conscious and sometimes maybe we're totally caught up in whatever was arising, like just like a normal human life. Maybe you had an argument with someone, maybe you had an argument with yourself, maybe you had this or that. But then at the end of the week, just like, okay, I see all that happened, but you don't have to keep beating yourself up about it. It's not that we have to feel guilty because guilt doesn't serve us. In a way, guilt is just a way of holding on to all of those things. And in a way, like I say, all of those things, there could be so many things, but there's so many things to remember. So we just bundle it all into guilt and we'll just keep that. We'll just keep guilt, but guilt encapsulates everything. So we really don't need to feel guilty or bad. Like it's just like totally, that's just the way of growth and the way of change. And maybe that actually inspires us. It inspires us to something greater. It's like kind of like being in the muck, you know. We're like a tiny little seed in the muck. And the muck is like it's important for a plant or a seed. Like the seed kind of takes its the first little sprout needs to be in the muck for that to happen. And it needs the muck to be rooted as well. So in a way, the muck is all of these human tendencies. Like we need them, they're important. So we can just acknowledge them, but then we can leave them behind. And when we're leaving them behind, that's our, if you can imagine like just a flower or something growing out of the ground, like up and up and then we're coming out and we're seeing like what's here. And what's here is like God and like compassion and like, oh, I don't have to live for myself, but you can kind of somehow stay rooted in humanity, so that muck, like it keeps us rooted, but we can relate to all the other people because we've seen that pain in ourselves. Like if we didn't have that pain in ourselves, I don't know if we'd really be able to relate to other people. Would we really have compassion or could we really have empathy if we didn't understand it at all? So actually, like it's super important that we have those kind of sufferings and experiences, but we usually tend to suffer too long. Like it's like we're taking the lesson again and again and again, and we really don't need to. So it's just up to you when you want to say, okay, that's enough now. That's enough. I really don't want it anymore. And then maybe even it will come again even after you decide that. But when it's there again, we can kind of be more conscious and kind of like disidentify from it a bit or just like loosen our grip on it a bit, like a bit at a time, and it happens. And that allows us to grow into the bodhicitta that we're here to be.
I want to invoke my dear friend Hanuman, who said once in satsang that the human condition is to lead a conditioned life.
Yeah.
That seems to underline some of what you're saying there.
Yeah. I think it's like there needs to be like a balance, so in a life, if one being is like too much in humanity, like, so that means like they're too much in the muck and the suffering and all, like that's not a life fully lived. But also I'm not fully clear about this, but if you're too much in the divinity, like God and all, like nobody can relate to you, and you're not really relating to the suffering either, so I mean, there isn't one way, like somebody else, for them it might be okay. It might be okay to be totally human or totally divine. But here, what the um I feel like how God it feels like that wants this life to be lived is for them to be totally in harmony and balance and connected, and there to be no split between the two, and they just free flow between each other, and to actually see that that is the way it is. It's not like to make it. It's like you don't have to make that happen. Like that actually is the way it is. But you can give too much attention to one or too much attention to the other, as well.
Mm.
Oh yeah.
Shall I continue? We've got just a few verses left. Do you feel like reading? What's
Yeah,
your
I can read.
pleasure?
What number are we on?
I think I stopped at the end of 58, which puts us at 59.
Okay. Who can give me fearlessness? What sure escape is there from this? It's certain that I'm going to die. So how can I relax my mind at ease? Of life's experience, all seasons past, what's left to me, what now remains? By clinging to what now is here no more, my teacher's precepts I have disobeyed. And when this life is left behind, and with it all my kith and kin, I must set out on strange paths all alone. Why make so much of all my friends and foes? How instead can I make sure to rid myself of evil, only cause of sorrow? This should be my one concern, my only thought both night and day. The wrongs that I have done through ignorant stupidity, all actions evil by their nature, and transgressions of the precepts. Fearing all the pains to come, I join my palms and ceaselessly prostrate, and everything I will confess directly in the sight of my protectors. I pray you, guides and guardians of the world, to take me as I am, a sinful man, and all these actions, evil as they are, I promise I will never do again. Oh, isn't that so sweet? But the thing is, I don't think we can promise that we'll never do it again. I liked it until that line. Because you can feel it like so much. It's like take me as I am. And I do feel like I see, that God does take us completely as we are without any need to change or anything like that. Um, and all these actions evil as they are. So you can see like that they're not really great. Like maybe you kind of said a little mean thing to your best friend or something. And then you notice it and you're like, oh, and maybe you'll say you'll never do it again, but you really don't know because we don't know how much conditioning is left inside us or how much hurt. And that's where those things come from. So, like the part of us that says, I promise I'll never do it again, that's the part, that wants to live in harmony with life and God. But like you said, your friend Hanuman said, like, what did he say again? Say it again.
The human condition is to lead a conditioned life.
Yeah, the human condition is to live a conditioned life, and we see a human, so there is going to be conditioning. So we can't really promise. I don't think we can promise that we'll never do it again. We can maybe promise that we can try to be conscious and try to not feed into it too much. So if you have an urge to shout at someone, like the other day, for example, there's this thing that really bothers me when I'm on the street and people shout at me. I just feel this like surge of like anger, like coming up inside me, and I often shout back at them. Like I'm usually on my bicycle, and maybe I'm often breaking the rules. Like I'm going through the traffic lights or cycling on the path or something. Like I'm doing something, but like not really in an annoying way. It's just like people get really annoyed by it when you don't follow the rules. So I think I was going through the lights and I was going quite slow because I wanted to let this lady pass in front. I didn't want to frighten her by whizzing past her. So from my perspective, I was actually being quite nice. And then she just started like and I could just feel this like surge of energy. And usually I'd just say like the quickest thing that comes to my mind, and just probably something mean and angry because I don't like it. But like, luckily I just felt it and like somehow nothing came out. And then I went past and I was like, and I was glad that nothing came out because you tend to feel bad afterwards. But usually, that's just someone on the street. So it comes and goes quicker. But if it's someone that is close to you, like your husband or your wife or your child or your mother or your father, like someone that you're actually in close proximity with and living with, if you if you're mean to them or something, it kind of lingers for longer, doesn't it, as well? So the best we can do maybe is to um we can't promise that it's not going to come because we really don't know. Like even in that situation, like I didn't know it wasn't going to come, and maybe the next time it will. The next time someone shouts at me. Like it's not like every day or something. It's just like once every now and again. Just in case you're worried. People are shouting at me in the street. It's like once in 8 weeks or something. 6 or 8 weeks, every now and again. A few times a year.
The Buddhist mythology is very much into reincarnation. So the
Mm,
assumption is you're going to be reborn. But together with that is the fact that's the part of the mythology is that
mm.
there's no guarantee you'll be reborn as a human,
Yeah.
right? You could come back as a pantry moth.
Yeah.
And so the point is to bring the attention back to the here and now, and
Mm,
realize that this is your one chance. And
mm.
he's saying in this chapter, by confessing, he's
Yeah.
saying, I've blown it. I've blown it up till now,
Yeah.
and I commit to being done. And to your point, he's human, so there's the human
Yeah.
part, and the conditioning of a conditioned life is
Mm,
likely to lead him astray again. But he's
mm,
asking for help, and
mm. So I would say as much as we can every day. If it's there in our consciousness and in our hearts to do that, like what he's doing, to recommit every day. Like saying, okay, maybe up until now I haven't been great. You can leave that part out if you want. But just like to say, like, okay, you don't even have to say it in words, but it's just like, okay, I'm here for just reaffirm in your heart like why you're here. It could be in the morning when you're in bed, or it could be like after you have an argument, you know, and then you're feeling a bit bad about that, and then you're reminded, oh yeah, I don't want to be like this and all. So it's like, okay, like what am I here for? So then it's like the next time it's like, yeah, maybe something feels triggered, but you're just not you're going to choose to not like shout back this time because it doesn't help. It just prolongs the situation or something. So just whenever we think of it in whatever way, because it can come in lots of different ways. Like it might come from just breathing deeply when we're outside in nature and appreciating the moment, or maybe we're not even out in nature. Maybe you're in the middle of a shopping mall, doing your Christmas shopping or something. And like, but somehow you're just very present. Like, and that's by just being totally present, like you're just in the moment, like there's nothing else. That's a kind of an affirmation. That's an affirmation that you're just here for this, because this is what life is giving us right now, this moment, whatever it is. And it might not be a shopping mall, maybe it's something worse than that. Maybe you're in the hospital visiting someone sick, like there's good and bad things. So it could be anything, anything, anything at all. Just have to bring some darkness in there. Keep the balance. Anyway, yeah, so thank you, Steve, for this invitation for us to join together to aspire towards being a bodhicitta. And even if we only did it and totally forgot about it in the month, so we're meeting on the first Saturday of every month. So even if we forgot about it all the other times, we're still doing something. And if we mean it, there's no point in just pretending, you know. But maybe there is. Maybe like for some people, you turn up to stuff like this and you kind of pretend, or it sounds good, but it's not really alive in your heart yet. But maybe if something brings you to this type of thing, like these type of texts and this type of thinking, even if it's not totally alive in your heart, it's still in your world. So something is trying to wake it up in you. So we don't need to be, I don't think we need to be so concerned about how much it happens. It's just like if it happens, the more it happens, it's good. But if it doesn't, like however much it happens, is okay.
If this recording, whether it be tomorrow or in hundreds of years, brings some positivity to even one person, then it
Yeah.
will have accomplished its purpose. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it brought some positivity to me.
Well, there you go. It's
Yeah.
already done.
Yeah. Yeah. My heart is happy for this connection. And I
Oh, mine
also
too.
really like to see your smile, and I appreciate reaffirming my I usually don't use the words like bodhicitta and all, but I appreciate reaffirming my dedication to bodhicitta anytime in whatever way it comes. So it's already done. That's what we said. The means and the end are the same in a way. We're
More next
serving.
month.
We're serving
Yeah, there you go.
God. Thank you, Steve. I really don't like calling you Steve, though. I think you should get another name.
I want
Have
to
to start
be Stephen Mukta.
Stephen Mukta. Maybe just Mukta for short. Stephen Mukta is good. Jeevan Mukta, Stephen Mukta. You are a Stephen Mukta. I now proclaim you Stephen Mukta.
I said that to Mira because someone had read from one of the Upanishads in satsang,
Yeah.
and she said, "Well, what's the term when you're liberated from the body while still alive?"
Mm.
And the guy right in front of her who had been reading said Jivan Mukta, and she
Yeah.
had a great laugh.
Yeah.
And I told her after that I want to be Stephen Mukta, and she had a giggle and gave me a hug. She said,
Uh-huh.
"Oh," in her French accent, she says, "Oh, I love it."
I love it. Yeah, that's good. Okay, I wish you a beautiful everything. Well, I probably might see you again at like the meditation that we do if you come to
Yep,
that, but this
yep,
meeting won't be again until the beginning of January.
right.
So just in case, we'll say Happy Christmas.
Okay, okay, you too. See you soon. Love you.
Bye. Love you too.